What's up, guys? Renasant here. Welcome back to the channel. We are about to fight the final boss, finally. The final boss of Dark Souls 3. Final boss of all of our DLC as well. This boss, I haven't given anything away. Hopefully, you'll soon learn a little bit more about the boss. But, I mean, we might as well just jump right into it, I guess, right? We'll go ahead and put our second chance on. Hopefully we can beat the boss on the first try, but if not, no biggie. So what we want to do here is basically just head right through that doorway right there. I remember we unfortunately killed the poor guy that was crawling up here. This is another kind of like hint of where you need to go. You can just kind of follow where this dude crawled from. But if you remember right, he said was it the red hooded figure, red hooded man was swallowing the souls of kings, actually. So let's just go and see what's up. God, this area is so desolate. Gale? Is that you? Looks like Gale, doesn't it?
What? Still here? Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul. For my lady's painting.
Can I pass? Is that acceptable to pass? Take that as a no. Hello, Gale. You have bulked up since the last time we saw you. So, and if you can't notice, Gale is much more aggressive than the last time we saw him. Oh, good hit, Gale. So yes, this is Slave Knight Gale in all his glory. He is incredibly tanky. Another thing about Gale is he's incredibly aggro. The other thing to notice is that this entire arena here is actually our battleground. So this whole area but you can see we've hit Gale twice, and this how much damage we've actually done to him. The main thing with Gale is just because he's so aggro is to just watch your stamina. Oh. If you don't think you're gonna get the attack off, then don't do the attack. There's never really any sense in going for a +2. And yes, he can be staggered, as you just noticed. What's up, Gale? Oh, jumped a little too late there. You don't want to get backed up into a pillar corner like I just did there. But you can see he's not really that tough. A lot of people find Gale very challenging, primarily because of his aggression, but I found that if you just keep paces with him, keep your distance, attack when you need to, he's not that bad. Oh, but of course, as every boss in Dark Souls 3, he has a second phase when you get him down to about half health. Now, it's not that bad either, but it's much more aggressive, I will say.
Is this the blood?
I mean, clearly.
The blood of the Dark Soul.
Yeah, I'd say so. So he's going to be super pissed now. Be very afraid, honestly. I personally still don't think he's too crazy, but a lot of people have trouble with him, and you'll see why. He has some pretty aggro attacks. Also, one of the coolest swords in the game. Look at that thing. Whew. Gale. Now, I know you might want to think about like doing ranged attacks right here. You could get a couple of them off, but whew, Gale has some new ranged moves himself, including, yes, a freaking automatic crossbow, which, in case you didn't notice, is awesome. He has the Way of White Corona spell as well. And he usually combos that into his crossbow. Oh, I was about to just say, don't let him hit you with that crossbow. That thing is painful. 255, it's not really worth it. So he's not quite at half health yet. When you do get him to like legitimate half health, he will get another kind of new move set, which you'll see. Basically, his cape will then become a weapon. His cape, yeah, right here. You can see his cape is clearly a weapon now. And don't let those things hit you. Not only do those things hurt, but do you see those things in the ground there? Yeah, lightning will then rain down. Ah, terrible. Pretty sure that I dodge rolled that, but whatever. Oh. You can see, I mean, he's extremely aggro now. I don't get it. And so I'm going to do something a little crazy here. I'm actually going to run super far away. Try to. Oh, doesn't work. Yep, forgot about that. If you try running from him, he doesn't take too kindly to that. Come on, Gale. Sorry I'm being really quiet, guys. This is just... It takes a little bit of concentration. I wish I had had more Estus, but... Honestly, most of the hits I took were just out of impatience. See how he just teleported there. Oh, come on, Gale. Got him. Just barely, man. Just barely. Soul of Slave Knight Gale and the blood of the Dark Soul. Whoo! We did it, fam. We have officially beaten the game. It's been a long journey. But we did it. Come at us. So, let's see what we got here. Of course, we got his soul, which there's two things that you need to recognize about these two souls that if you never played Dark Souls 1 would be kind of hard to recognize, but oh, where'd I go? You see all these souls, obviously these are just, you know, yellow. That just means they're great souls or lord souls, whatever. These are blue because they're magic based. Osiris, the Deacons, Crystal Sage, they're very magic based. Aldrich, extremely magic based. Sister Freeze is white because it's frozen. Demon Prince obviously is red. Soul of a Demon's red. They're fire based. Midir and Gale, though, theirs is actually black and similar to a humanity sprite. So, they are, another way to look at it is they are swallowed by the abyss, both of them. Gale, obviously, the red-hooded wandering slave knight Gale, sought the blood of the Dark Soul as pigment for the painted world. But Gale knew he was no champion, that the Dark Soul would likely ruin him, and that he had little hope of a safe return. So yes, they've both been swallowed by the abyss, basically, and they both, specifically Gale's, it looks like a humanity from Dark Souls 1. So he was going, the blood of the Dark Soul, or the Dark Soul itself, actually, I guess, is humanity. In fact, it's what the Dark Soul is, what makes humans human. And have it. Yeah. Blood of the Dark Soul. Blood of the Dark Soul that seeped from the hole within Slave Knight Gale. Uses pigment by his lady in Ariandel to depict a painted world. When Gale came upon the Pygmy Lords, he discovered that their blood had long ago dried and so consumed the Dark Soul. So he has been effectively, Gale has been eating these pygmies to sustain himself. He's become, I guess, addicted to the blood of the Dark Soul, and he's just been eating the Pygmy Lords because, again, coming from Dark Souls 1, the original human, I guess you could say, or humanity, was the pygmy, the furtive pygmy. He's the one who found the Dark Soul. Specifically, Gwyn and his followers, they all had Lord Souls. Gwyn split his Lord Soul, but they had Lord Souls. The pygmy found the Dark Soul and was effectively the first human, and so like further evidence from that, from the DLC in Dark Souls 1, would tell you that when you fight Manus, Father of the Abyss, his soul looks just like this. It's black, and it looks like humanity. So Manus was, I mean, this isn't necessarily in the lore as true, but Manus, most people would agree, is the furtive pygmy. He's the one who found the Dark Soul. And because of that, because he was the beginning of humanity, he also brought along the Abyss with him, and that's why the Abyss is depicted in these souls, also in Manus' soul. But there's one more thing we want to do now. We want to actually travel to, I think, Ariandel Chapel, because we want to give this Blood of the Dark Soul item to this painting. This painter. Should be a ladder or something over here. Yeah. I remember this girl we found locked in the other tower. Basically, Gale, who was her uncle, had locked her in that tower to keep her safe. Look at her. She's just a kid. She's just happy-go-lucky. You can see she's got paint going on here.
My thanks, Ashen One. With this will I paint a world. Please tell me thy name. I would name this painting after thee. My thanks. I will paint a world of that name. 'Twill be a cold, dark, and very gentle place. And one day, it will make someone a goodly home. I wonder when Uncle Gale intends his return. I hope the new painting will be to him a gentle home. My thanks, I will assure it of a cold one day.
Yeah. So, basically, this kind of identifies that the Dark Soul... Oh, God. The Dark Soul is being used, or specifically the blood of the Dark Soul is being used by this girl to effectively create another painted world. So this is kind of some lore on how these painting worlds come to life, come to being. And of course, much like Ariamis and much like Ariandel, she claims it will be a cold, dark world. What's new? Alright guys, so that is pretty much the entire game of Dark Souls 3 in a nutshell. There is some stuff we want to do at Firelink Shrine. Pretty much everything else we want to do at Firelink Shrine. We want to just read all of our items, all the items that we can make from boss souls, and all the items.
Ashen One for the link.
Oh my God, yes. So we'll just start with boss souls. You are not my dude. See, my dude evaporated, so I killed him. Also, guys, I can't remember if I apologized or not, but I apologize for the audio issues in the previous episode. I don't know what was going on with my mic, but I think it maybe it's just been too close to me or something. I don't know. But let's go ahead and read some of these items. So, Crystal Hail, of course, it is made from the soul of a crystal sage. It is a unique sorcery developed by extraordinary preacher twins known as the Crystal Sages. Casts a cascade of small crystal soul masses from above. In a pact said to have been formed long ago, one of the sages allied with the Undead Legion in order to train the sorcerers of Farron. So, of course, the two Crystal Sage twin sisters, there was one in the Grand Archives, of course, which is where they originally were. But one specifically abandoned her or just left her. Regardless, she apparently signed an agreement with the Undead Legion of Farron to train those Farron warriors in the arts of magic. So that explains why that Crystal Sage was there. White Dragon Breath. This is sorcery of the deluded, consumed King Osiris. Emits crystal breath of Seath the Scaleless. Crystal breath has piercing qualities. Seath's research seemed to strike a chord with old Big Hat, who, in his mad, disrobed state, made divine works such as this his own. Osiris was no doubt edified by this. So, in Dark Souls 1, if you follow Big Hat Logan's quest line to the end, basically you come upon him in Seath's archives, which we've already kind of figured out is basically the Grand Archives, just in a different either time zone or either time or a different reality. But regardless, Logan is actually the one who created this White Dragon Breath spell, and he did it based on research that he did while studying Seath the Scaleless in Seath's archives, in the Duke's archives. And they even reference in here in his mad, disrobed state. When you finally finish his quest line and you find him chilling in Seath's lair, Logan is stripped naked except for his giant hat and a diaper, basically, a little loincloth. And he's attacking you with this very spell. So, Old Moonlight is going to come from Midir. A memory of an old sword found deep within Midir. This sorcery uses souls to grant form to the thought and attack with it. Attacks are coupled with light waves, and sustaining the stance before attacking increases their speed and potency. The sword is named after Moonlight, but it is slightly different than the one fashioned of the Pale Drake Seath. Perhaps it is rooted in an older memory from not long after the beginning. So not a whole lot of lore there. It does tell you that it is a memory of an old sword found deep within Midir. I wonder if this is talking about a sword that maybe punctured Midir at some point, like the player character's sword, because we effectively, in killing Midir, freed him from the abyss. He wasn't a bad dragon; he was a protector of old girl. I forgot her name, Princess Filianor. So he wasn't bad necessarily, but he was corrupted by the abyss, and they specifically tell you that this sword is different than the one that you get from Seath, the Moonlight Greatsword, the one that you get from Seath for cutting his tail off. They tell you that it's different. So the Deep Soul comes from Soul of the Deacons of the Deep. Sorcery of Archdeacon Royce and his deacons, said to have been imparted to them by McDonnell of the Boreal Valley. Souls which swell from the deep pursue their target, drawn towards life. So Archdeacon Royce, of course, was the main deacon at the Cathedral of the Deep that we killed. If you remember that boss fight with the Deacons of the Deep, he was the one that all the other deacons were protecting. He was indeed an archdeacon. McDonnell, however, of the Boreal Valley, is another archdeacon, but he is chilling down there where those Sullivan's beasts are, where we got the Ring of Favor and protection from. So he's part of the Covenant. So Chaos Bed Vestiges, I think we read that one already because we have it. Seething Chaos, we get this from the Soul of the Demon Prince. the last flame lit by the demon prince. This pyromancy hurls a clump of chaos. Doesn't really give you much lore there. Boulder Heave, definitely no lore. So Black Serpent comes from Wolnir. Pyromancy discovered from the Abyss by High Lord Wolnir that inspired the black arts of the Grave Wardens. Releases undulating black flames that trace the ground. Be it sorcery or pyromancy, all techniques that infringe on humanity lead to the same place, that is, the Abyss. That is to say, they all seek a will of their own. So, of course, Wolnir, we learned about him. He was a great conqueror, a great king, but much like Artorias of the Abyss, much like probably Midir, the Abyss just took him over and enveloped him. Soothing Sunlight. It's a special miracle granted to the maidens of the Princess of Sunlight, aka Guinevere. The miracles of Guinevere, the princess cherished by all, bestow their blessing on a great many warriors. It's not a whole lot of lore, but obviously that came from Guinevere, as does Bountiful Sunlight. Nothing really there. Sunlight Spear, which we made from the Soul of the Lords, aka the Soul of Cinder. Just says the tales of Gwyn's archdragon hunts describe the inception of the Age of Fire. So this is what Gwyn used to take down the archdragons. Lightning Storm comes from Nameless King. Ally to the ancient dragons. Once a slayer of dragons, the former king and war god tamed a storm drake, on which he led a lifetime of battle. This miracle is likely a tale of their bond. So, of course, if you remember us talking about the fact that the Nameless King is all but assuredly Gwyn's firstborn son. The reason specifically that they say in the lore that he's the former king and a war god is because, specifically, because Gwyn died or disappeared or whatever, the Nameless King, aka the firstborn son, would have had rightful claim to the throne. So, Life Hunt Scythe, Miracle of Aldrich, Devourer of Gods. That is false. Aldrich dreamt as he slowly devoured the god of the Dark Moon, aka Gwendolyn. In this dream, he perceived the form of a young, pale girl in hiding. So, again, going back to a lot of Dark Souls 1 lore, Life Hunt was a technique, or Life Hunt Scythe was a technique used by Priscilla of the Painted World of Ariamis. Basically what happened was, as Aldrich was eating Gwendolyn of the Dark Moon Blades, son of Gwyn, of course, as he was eating him, he was dreaming and gaining the ability to use the Life Hunt Scythe. He was dreaming of Priscilla. That is one of the key points of how Aldrich was so powerful, is the fact that he could dream things and actually have them happen and learn in his dreams. So that's what that means. Was that technique was not used by Gwendolyn, but it was used by Priscilla, who was Gwendolyn's supposed half-sister. So, Cleric's Candlestick from the Souls of the Deacons of the Deep, under the guidance of Archdeacon MacDonald, became both clergymen and sorcerers. Lothric's Sword. So we have Lothric's. We should have Lorians in here somewhere. Yeah, there's Lorians. So we'll get to it. But Lothric, Prince Lothric's straight sword, blessed by Emma with potent magic. Young Lothric was meant to be a champion and was expected to wield this platinum sword, but some things will remain distant dreams forever. Obviously, him being a champion didn't work out. He was born crippled, so that didn't happen. Hollow Slayer Great Sword, BT Dubs, one of the low-key best items in the game. No real lore there, but Wolnir's Holy Sword. A holy sword eroded by the Abyss. Shocker. When Wolnir fell to the Abyss, he was gripped by a fear of true darkness and pleaded to the gods for the first time. This holy sword, together with 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics, gave him some semblance of comfort. So, of course, if you remember when we killed him, the way we killed Wolnir was destroy those bracelets. So it turns out those bracelets were what kept him alive. So, Great Sword of Judgment. Of course, this was Pontiff's magic sword. A ceremonial sword held in Pontiff Sullivan's left hand, representing the judgment of the moon, but with magic far closer to sorcery than any existing lunar power. Its dark blue hues, deeper than the darkest moon, reflect Sorcerer Sullivan's true nature. So that's actually a very interesting point. Pontiff Sullivan, of course, he's in at the base of Anor Londo. He's in Irithyll, which that whole area is now controlled by Aldrich. But originally it was looked after by Gwendolyn, who is, of course, the leader of the Dark Moonblades. The moon typically signifies faith-based spells. The moon signifies allegiance to the gods, and much like the sun, and it also signifies allegiance to faith. But Pontiff specifically did not have faith. He was a sorcerer, and this just tells you how, although it was dark blue colors that he used, much like Dark Moonblades, it wasn't faith that guided him, it was sorcery. Wolf Knight's Greatsword, R.I.P. Greatsword of the Night, tainted by the dark of the abyss, and master of the wolf's blood of Farron. The Wolf Knight was the first Abyss Watcher, and his sword is more punishing against creations of the abyss. So obviously that is Artorias' greatsword. Moonlight Greatsword comes from Osiris. Legendary dragon weapon associated with Seath the Pale Drake. See, they say associated with, but you actually get it from chopping off Seath's tail. Osiris, the Consumed King, was infatuated with the search for moonlight, but in the end, it never revealed itself to him. That's because moonlight and sorcery are not the same thing. Firelink Greatsword. The Lords of Cinder linked the first flame, and this greatsword was wielded by their deific manifestation. So, of course, that is what the Soul of Cinder was using. It's a manifestation of every person that's ever linked the first flame. Gale's Greatsword, which we just got, basically. The only weapon that he kept with him from beginning to end. It was originally an executioner's sword made for decapitation. Profane Greatsword. This was the fire sword that Pontiff Sullivan used. It represented the profane flame. Long ago, when Sullivan was yet a young sorcerer, he discovered the profane capital and an unfading flame below a distant tundra of Irithyll, and a burning ambition took root within him. That ambition was to usurp the gods, basically. Lorien's Greatsword was an ultra greatsword of Prince Lorien, who was Lothric's older brother. Before Lorien embraced his brother's curse, he was a knight who single-handedly slayed the demon prince. But the victory eternally scorched his sword with flame. So it scorched his sword with flame, sure, but he didn't actually kill the demon prince, right? Because the demon prince is chilling in the Ring City, so. Farron Greatsword. Greatsword of the Abyss Watchers, which is atypically paired with an unusual dagger. The dagger is utilized as a wedge in the left hand, while the greatsword is held in the right, a unique technique that was synonymous with Undead Legion. Confounds foes, yeah, right. Stormcurve Sword is the Nameless King, ally of ancient dragons, fought beside the Stormdrake in countless battles. When the great beast fell, the king claimed his soul, as was the custom in the Age of the Gods. So, of course, when you're fighting the Nameless King, he does not use this. He uses this, which we'll get to in a second. But, yeah, he doesn't actually use this sword ever. Demon Scar, there's not really any lore there, but comes from the Demon Prince. It's actually a extremely good and extremely unique weapon. Basically, it is a pyromancy catalyst and a curved sword. And that thing shreds, by the way. The Dancer's Swords. They're paired enchanted swords that Pontiff Sullivan bestowed upon the dancer of the Boreal Valley. They're symbolic of the dancer's vows, are enchanted by dark magic in the right and fire in the left, just like the Pontiff. Crystal Sage's rapier. So this is just a little sword used by the Crystal Sages. The thing with this weapon is it boosts your item discovery. So if you're farming for items, obviously you would like to have this item. The Frey Blade is a dragon weapon symbolizing Dark Eater Midir. So of course it comes from Midir's soul. Again, you can just look at the sword and tell that it is been succumbed to the abyss. As it says, without its sheath it will soon crumble into nothing. It's actually a really good sword. It has a unique special attack. It just says hold, but that's not the... Oh yeah, in which a normal attack sends a shockwave along the earth. Yeah, so it's actually different than most katanas. Can we not use it? 40 dex to use that. Dang. Demon's Great Axe. The demons, born of chaos, harbor fire, and yet they're twisted and malformed such that they were never meant to be. Dragon Slayer Great Axe. You get that from Dragon Slayer armor. Doesn't really give you any details there, except for the fact that it was used to slay the archdragons. Nothing with Yorm's machete. Vort's hammer, of course. He's an outrider knight of the Boreal Valley. So he does have his hammer imbued with frost damage. Old Demon King. So it's interesting. It says this weapon has survived since Old Izalith and is imbued with remnants of the Chaos Flame. So it kind of makes you wonder. This was obviously the first demon, right? The Old Demon King. He was the first demon ever created from the Izalith Witch, trying to create a secondary first flame, aka the Chaos Flame. Arstor's Spear. One of the curses that festered within the belly of the Great Wood. A terrible weapon favored by Earl Arstor the Impaler. Actually, probably the worst weapon in the game. There we go. Dragon Slayer Sword Spear. A dragon hunting weapon from the Age of the Gods. The earliest form of the cross spear, serving as both sword and spear. Its owner was the Nameless King and deific hunter of dragons. The sword spear is imbued with lightning, of which he was the heir. Boom, right there. Of which he was the heir. Whose lightning is Gwen, obviously. So anybody that denies the Nameless King is Gwen's firstborn son is delusional. Like, straight up. Gundir's Halberd. This was the halberd of Gundir the champion received when he was charged with his duty. This old cast iron halberd has the power to break poise and is said to never crumble, seeming to suggest that Gundir was fated to eternal service from the beginning. It's honestly an extremely good weapon, extremely good strength dex weapon. Unfortunately, we already made the prisoner's chain, so Frida's Great Scythe. Awesome weapons. It's a great scythe wielded by Sister Elfrida, with a curved blade thinly coated by painted world frost that easily breaks the guard of shields. In the painting, the scythe is a symbol of a long-lost home, possibly explaining Elfrida's preference for it. So it's actually two weapons. It's just your typical scythe in your right hand, but when you two-hand it, it's actually it has a magic scythe to go with it. This thing, if you have an intelligence dex build, this will shred people. The Rose of Arendelle you could also make with that soul. It was the flail used by the father of the painted world to shred his own skin, producing blood to appease the flame. It's also a miracle catalyst, and a whip, basically. Demon's Fist. Darkmoon Longbow. It's the longbow of Darkmoon Gwendolyn, who was, of course, devoured by Aldrich. You can use that with moonlight arrows. It's not that great of a bow, honestly, but it's fun. Repeating Crossbow. Customized for repeat firing to face mobs alone, was wielded by Slave Knight Gale. So, of course, he was devouring thousands of pygmies. So, obviously, he needed something to push them back quickly. Dragon Slayer Great Shield. The shield offers high protection to lightning, which the Dragon Slayer commanded as his own, and its skill has faint echoes of the Dragon Slayer's own fighting style, aka Ornstein's. Yorm's probably maybe the best shield in the game. It's not statistically the best shield in the game, but if you base it on its weight, I would say it might be. It's only 20.5 pounds, or units, whatever. Havel's Ring, we have read. Prisoner's Chain, we have read. Pontiff's Left Eye. Knights who peer into the black orb are lured into battles of death, transformed into frenzied beasts. No wonder the Pontiff only provides these rings to those dispatched foreign lands. So you can see that black eye. Of course, we have the right eye of Pontiff, but... And that is it, guys. That's all the boss weapons, boss armors, or whatever. I mean, boss weapons, boss shields. Basically, that is all of the lore that you can get from boss weapons. There's still quite a bit of armor here with lore on it. Don't know if I really want to do that in this episode. May take a while. I may just do it in the next episode, guys. So the next episode will probably be the ending point of this series. I didn't know if I wanted to do this stuff in New Game Plus or not. I probably won't, just because I don't really have time and I want to be doing other things. And you can Google it pretty much anywhere. But essentially, the only real thing I wanted to show in New Game Plus was Henri's alternate quest line, and also the alternate quest line of the Firekeeper, so to get the alternate ending. But excuse you. All right. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we will see you next time, guys. Bye.